Welcome, everybody. We are so excited that you joined us today for this virtual coaching session, Weight Management and You, Healthy Eating for Lasting Change. Today, our presenters will be sharing their top ideas on nutritional strategies that can last a lifetime. But before I introduce our presenters, I'll say a little bit about myself and share a bit about Mobi as well. So my name is Steve Christensen. I work here at Mobi primarily with our client organization to make sure we're providing awesome service to our participants, just like you. For those who are new or newer to us, Mobi is proud to help our participants on their journey to better health and more happiness. We offer personalized health coaching and medication support through our Mobi guides and pharmacists on topics like nutrition, sleep, movement, emotional well-beings, and medication, including supplements. If you haven't worked with a Mobi guide or pharmacist before, we'll share more at the end of this session on how you can connect and get started. From here, I'd like to introduce our two presenters today, Brianna Weiser and Katie McCollum. First, Brianna Weiser is a Mayo Clinic trained registered dietitian. She holds a degree in nutrition and dietetics from New York University and is a nutrition expert here at Mobi. Brianna, would you like to say hello?
Hello, it's wonderful to be here with you all today.
Thanks, Brianna. Great to have you. Next, Katie McCollum, also a registered dietitian, holds a Bachelor of Science in Health Policy from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a Master of Science in Nutrition from Meredith College. Katie, like to say hello?
Yes, thanks so much. Good morning, everybody. Excited to be here as well.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Katie, do you want to take it from here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And once again, just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for being here. Brianna and I are so excited to go through this with you and wanted to take a moment to really pause and reflect on the words on this slide. Weight alone does not define your health. It also doesn't define you. So whether you're here this morning and you want to gain weight, lose weight, or maintain your current weight, we are coming together to share 5 habits with you that support healthy weight management. Weight management is a term that you might be asking, what does that mean? Weight management involves creating realistic and lasting habits that support your body's ability to do its best. So research shows us that a healthy weight is a number that's associated with a lower risk of chronic diseases and health issues, but a lot of things can make weight management a hard thing to do. So many different things go into our weight, things like our gender, our genes, age, lifestyle, where we work, where we live, our family, medications we're taking, our health status, the amount of sleep we're getting. The list goes on and on. So that's why it's even more important for Brianna and I included to remember that weight management includes a daily practice of being kind to ourselves, because things don't always go as planned, being dedicated to ourselves and our health goals, and being able to overcome any unexpected challenges to really be our best. So no matter where you are today, the good news is that at the end of our time together, you're going to walk away with at least one step that you can take to get closer to your personal health goal. At Mobi, we really believe that focusing on the things that we're already doing well is so important. It's powerful and it's way more effective and impactful than thinking about all the things that we feel like we aren't doing well or maybe aren't doing right. When we focus on the good truly does get better. So all together, grab your pen and paper and take a moment to really reflect on and think about one thing that you are already doing well, you're already proud of to support your health today. I took a little bit of time to reflect on this morning myself because I knew I was going to be asking all of you this question. And I decided that today I am proud of the fact that over the past week or so, I have made it a personal goal to get outside with my dog and walk, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, because I noticed that it really makes me feel better and it impacts my mood during the day. Feel free to share what you feel like you're already doing well or that you're proud of in the chat with us.
At Mobi, we do take time to celebrate our progress because research shows that it really helps to reinforce those small changes that we're making. It can also help to boost our confidence and help us to remain motivated, especially in those times where life gets busy or barriers come up and it feels maybe easier to just not take care of ourselves. So we have some great answers coming through the chat. I'm going to share a couple here. One attendee is proud of the fact that they are walking their dog 2 days a week without pain. So similar to Katie's proud moment. And that is so key. I think sometimes when we're in pain, the last thing we feel we want to do is move. And oftentimes when we do begin to move slowly and gradually, it can really help us to move forward and to take those small steps to bring more movement into our lives. So fantastic job. Another attendee has been reading in bed at night instead of watching TV, and they said that that's helped with their sleep. So we know that screen time and blue light exposure can impact our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. And this individual seems to have recognized that and is now using reading as a way to decompress and unwind and clear their mind so they can get that good sleep. So fantastic job there. And then I'll read one more. Somebody in the audience is eating a piece of fruit 3 days a week at lunch. And that is such a great small step to bring more of those healing foods into your day. So sometimes we're in the habit of bringing chips or pretzels or other things as a side for our lunch. And simply bringing that fruit in is a great way to start incorporating those whole foods, which we'll discuss as we move on here. For me personally, I'm grateful to be making myself a smoothie 2 to 3 days a week. Mornings are really busy in my family, and I find that when I take that time to do something good for myself and my health first thing in the morning, it sets me up for a really positive day. So as you're probably gathering at Moby, we take a whole person approach to the work that we do. We focus on lifestyle and medication management. And the reason we do that is we know that behavior change and health is complex. We know there's no quick fix when it comes to meeting our goals and taking care of ourselves. And really that sustainable or long-lasting change occurs when we begin to notice how behaviors in one area of our life impact other areas. So for example, on the days where I have that fresh, healthy smoothie in the morning, I've noticed that I'm more likely to exercise later in the day, which helps me to release stress and then sleep better at night. And so once I was able to understand how my nutrition choices connected to how I move, how I sleep, and how I manage stress, it really reinforced that habit formation and made me even more committed to that goal. So today, we're really going to dive into this whole person approach as it plays out in the world of weight management and nutrition. And I wanted to just get it on the table as we begin this time together that the world of nutrition can feel overwhelming at sometimes or all the time for certain people. And, I think a lot of us know what we want to do or why eating a certain food is healthy. However, most of us struggle with really forming a plan and then taking those initial steps to really begin taking action. And so if this is you, please know you're not alone. Even Katie and I struggle with this on a day-to-day basis. And simply by being with us today, you're already taking that first step in investing in your health and well-being. So I just want everyone to take a moment to thank themselves for taking the time to be here and really be grateful for that effort that they're making to better themselves. Because the world of nutrition can be vast and at times overwhelming, we have chosen 5 habits that will support healthy weight management to really guide our conversation today. So we know that achieving and maintaining a healthy weight involves eating whole foods, drinking enough water, getting in enough fiber, planning our meals, and then also eating mindfully. So we're really going to touch on each of these areas as we move through our time together. And we're going to spend a little bit more time on eating mindfully. But I do encourage you as we move forward to keep that pen and paper out and just simply jot down anything that comes up that resonates with you, something that feels interesting, or maybe something new that you didn't think about before, or possibly an experiment you might want to try. Because in the end of the session, as Steve mentioned, we're going to be kind of working together to each form an action step for ourselves.
Perfect, thank you. Our first habit that we're going to talk about of the 5 includes eating more whole foods. Whole foods are foods that are hardly or not at all processed. They don't include additives, so things like extra sugar, extra fat, or extra salt, and they're full of nutrients. There are a lot of examples of whole foods, things like fruits and veggies, whole grains like wild rice, beans, nuts, seeds, healthy fats like avocado and olive oil. There's so many wonderful, colorful whole foods that you could think about adding to your day-to-day. Eating more whole foods and less processed foods supports healthy weight management. So one way to challenge yourself here, and something it sounds like one of you is already doing and celebrating, which is exciting, is just finding out one swap you can make during your day to take a processed food and replace it with a whole food. So the example earlier was looking at lunch. You could replace chips at lunch with something like an apple or an orange. Or at dinner, maybe you swap out your French fries. If you're going out to eat with friends or family, you swap out French fries for a baked sweet potato. So just one swap during the day, a whole food. Our second habit is drinking enough water. Getting enough water is important because it helps our bodies work at their best. The amount of water we each need is different for each of us because it depends on a lot of different things, how active we are, our environment, our health status, and also any medications that we might be taking. So none of our numbers will probably be the same. A question that Brianna and I get often is what counts towards hydration, right? Does it all have to be water? And the good news is everything that you see on this slide counts towards your daily hydration. So still water, sparkling water, and up to 4 cups of caffeinated tea or coffee all count toward your daily water needs. That being said, health experts continue to encourage us to make water our main source of hydration because it has so many health benefits. We could talk about those, and that would be a whole nother webinar, but one of those health benefits is weight management. Studies show that when we increase our water consumption, it helps regulate our appetite, and it also supports digestion and metabolism. So this is something that I have to be very mindful about every day, is getting enough water. So I was thinking about a few things that seem to help, and one of those is first thing in the morning, getting up and having a glass of water before coffee, before breakfast, before I really do much of anything else, is drinking that first glass of water. Another is maybe having a sparkling water with lunch, or enjoying a relaxing glass of tea or cup of tea in the evening as part of your wind down bedtime routine.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Brianna. I'm going to jump in here real quick. We've got a couple of good questions, and I wanted to throw a couple of things out here. So the first one, going back to the first habit, do you have any whole food recipes you might share?
Ooh, I can take this one. Yes, we do. Who doesn't love a recipe? I know I do. Moby has lots of wonderful recipes that incorporate whole foods, and there are a couple of ways for you to access those. We'll talk in a little bit about our Moby Health Guide app. So if you don't have that already, downloading the app will give you access to recipes. Working with our guide is another great way to get recipes. They'll really be able to tailor your likes, your dislikes, your preferences, your time, all of those things to the recipes that we do have, and share that way. And then lastly, there are recipes on our Moby blog. So at mobyforlife.com, if you go to the blog, I believe right now there's one on overnight oats. So lots of different things. One of my personal favorites is a sheet pan recipe where everything is on one pan. It's great. So easy cleanup, lots of veggies, your protein. It makes busy weeknights a little bit easier. So lots of good recipes.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. I know I've used some of the recipes off the blog, much to my children's chagrin, but I've given it a try. So how about another one? Wow, I didn't know that tea and coffee could count towards my daily water goal. Why is this the case?
I would love to take this one because it's a question I get all the time. I think we often hear that coffee is dehydrating. And although that's not untrue, coffee has a slight dehydrating effect on the body. So One thing to recognize, though, is that tea and coffee are predominantly water, right? And so if we are trying to meet our water needs, these are additional ways that we can get in water and add some variety to our day. So with the coffee and the tea, if you're choosing caffeinated coffee or caffeinated tea, you want to limit that to 4 cups total per day to count towards your water intake. If it's, for instance, decaffeinated tea, that's a question I get a lot. That's basically the same as water. You're just going to get a little bit of, if it's an herbal tea, some herbs in there, or whatever the case may be. So know that you can incorporate coffee, you can incorporate tea in your day. But as Katie said, what's really recommended is to try to get the majority of your water from the still or the sparkling water. The other thing I wanted to mention, just from a weight management perspective, is it's often helpful to be mindful of what you're putting in those drinks. So in today's world, there's all sorts of flavoring packets, there's sugar, there's coffee creamers, there's all sorts of things that we can add to our beverages for flavor. And those all come with calories. They come with extra, sugars and things of that nature. So if you are somebody who likes to put those things into your drinks, just keeping an eye on how much you're putting in there if weight management is a goal for you. Hope that answered your question. All right, well, let's move into our third habit here. What's that, Steve?
Technological problems. I was just going to say, let's keep moving on, and we'll see how we're doing as we go.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good. So moving into our third habit here, this involves getting enough fiber. And this is such an important component of our nutrition. And I think it's something that is often overlooked when it comes to weight management. Only about 5% of the American population meets their fiber needs. I know I was really surprised to hear this. This really ties into making those whole food choices. So as we make more whole food choices, inevitably, we're going to be getting more fiber in. But this looks like a big opportunity for a lot of Americans, so let's take a look. So we've all heard of fiber and what it is, but eating high fiber foods like sweet potatoes, pears, black beans can be a really nice way to support our health. And you might be wondering why. Part of why this works so well is that these foods are just packed with nutrition. They also have enough fiber that we tend to get fuller a bit more quickly than we would off of low fiber foods. So this allows us to then eat less and also stay satisfied longer. When you think about fiber, it also plays a really important role in our digestive health. So research after research paper is coming out to show and demonstrate the impact that our digestive health has on nearly every system of the body. And so if we're feeding our body foods that are nutrient rich and packed with fiber, it really helps our whole digestive system function at its best. For me personally, I find that adding the frozen berries and the bananas and the flax seeds to my smoothie first thing in the morning is a great way to start my day with some fiber. At snack times, I like to experiment with things like raw vegetables and hummus, or popcorn, or things like dried fruit and nuts. Those are all really high fiber foods that are easy to grab and consume instead of grabbing a candy bar or a soda, for instance. And then at night, I typically try to incorporate a whole grain in my meal. So if I'm making a stir fry, for instance, I would make brown rice to go with that, or use something like quinoa, or as Katie mentioned earlier, wild rice. Those are all great whole grains that can accompany, a protein and a vegetable at dinner. So those are a couple of ways that I incorporate high fiber foods into my diet. One thing I wanted to mention is if you are somebody who's listening today and thinking that this could be a helpful area of focus for you, just to know that you want to slowly and gradually increase that fiber intake. It takes a little while for your body to adjust if you are somebody who hasn't been eating high fiber foods. And while you do that, it's important to also increase the amount of water you're drinking. So it's kind of cool because you're bringing in a whole food that's high in fiber and then you're drinking the water at the same time and able to kind of cover all three of those habits at the same time. All right. So as we look to eat more whole foods, as we look to drink more water, and as we look to add more fiber to our day, meal planning really becomes a key ingredient for success. And I don't know about you, but when I hear the words meal planning, sometimes I get nervous because I think sometimes there's a misconception that meal planning involves building out every single meal you're going to have for every day of the week, planning the grocery list, doing the shopping, making the foods, and that can be really, really overwhelming. So going back to Moby's approach of really taking small steps to make meaningful change, we want to just reiterate that meal planning could look anything like finding recipes, making a grocery list, or simply preparing a meal or a snack. So research does show, though, that individuals who plan their meals make healthier food choices and consume less overall. And when you think about the portion sizes at restaurants these days, that makes a lot of sense, right? So know that any amount of meal planning is going to be supportive of your health. Whether you choose to pack a lunch the night before, batch cook a hearty soup on a weekend for the week, or simply just pack some fresh fruit and pick up some fresh fruit to have around your house. Start small, appreciate your successes, and then gradually build on those successes as you feel able. We find that if we take on too much at once, we realize it's unsustainable, and then we tend to go back to our old ways. So a few little tips there from a meal planning perspective.
Thank you. Now we're moving into our last habit that we want to discuss in a little bit more detail, and that is eating mindfully. So when we eat more mindfully, we're more aware of the food and the drinks that we're putting in our body, but it goes a little bit further than that. We're more aware of them, but we also are able to take a moment and honor where our food came from. We can stop what we're doing and enjoy the experience of eating. You know, maybe I know something that I am working on is getting away from my desk to eat lunch, right? If I am doing something else while I'm eating, I'm not taking a moment to enjoy the food that I'm eating because we're all busy trying to do a lot of different things. So it can be a hard thing to stop and focus on that. We're also able to notice how the food makes us feel, which is a really important piece of weight management as well. Eating more mindfully helps us make better food choices and take control of the habits that might be getting in our way. So that includes things like eating when we're stressed, or we're sad, or we're happy, or any of the emotions. They can all be tied at times to eating. So taking a moment to really think about, why am I eating? Is it because of an emotion I'm feeling, or is it actually hunger? Can be really impactful. Another thing that can happen is we eat too much without even realizing it, or automatically giving in to cravings. So taking time to slow down in a very busy world and eat mindfully can be really impactful.
Yep. As Katie mentioned, in today's world, it's really easy to fall into those habits of eating while watching in front of the TV, rushing through meals, or grabbing fast food out of convenience. I know that as a busy mom, I sometimes find myself rushing through meals, and we've been really trying to pause and slow down and appreciate the experience itself. So although these sort of quick fixes can satisfy our immediate needs, what we find is that long-term, they really don't support our overall health. So as we look to really embrace more mindful eating strategies and take more of a mindful eating approach to nutrition, we have the opportunity to really step back, to observe and be more aware of our tendencies. And then this is the key: with compassion versus judgment, challenge ourselves to begin to incorporate more mindful eating strategies that can replace some of those behaviors, like eating in front of the TV, rushing to eat a meal, or grabbing fast food out of convenience. And so mindful eating really involves choosing nutrient-rich foods, focusing on what we're eating, And then slowing down, as Katie mentioned, to really enjoy the experience, not only what we're eating, but who we're eating with, that social experience of eating and being connected to others, and thinking about where our food came from and how grateful we are to just have the food itself on our plate to eat. When we eat in a mindful way, it really allows us to also understand throughout the meal when our body's becoming satisfied. So if we're distracted in eating a meal, oftentimes we tend to eat more than we anticipated. And so when we eat mindfully, we can pay attention to our hunger throughout the meal. We can listen to our body, and we can learn to kind of work with the body versus against it.
There are many different ways to practice mindful eating. So in the next few minutes, we're going to go through 4 different techniques. Consider experimenting with one, maybe all of them, to figure out really what's going to work well for you, because what works well for me isn't going to necessarily work for Brianna, and so on. So you have to take the time, as Brianna said, with compassion to experiment and recognize that they might not all be for you, and that's okay, but hopefully you can find one that is. Regardless of how you choose to eat more mindfully, already you've probably heard a couple of things come up. So there are 4 things to keep in mind. The first is really practice being present and in the moment. The second is take some time to enjoy what you're eating, enjoy who you're with, enjoy how the food tastes, how it smells. And that related to that is being able to observe what and why you're eating, and really bring awareness to the reasons that you're choosing the foods that you are choosing, what and why you're putting those things in your body.
So if you're looking for a way to be more present at meals, as Katie mentioned, consider having a tech-free meal and notice how that impacts not only what you eat, but how much you eat, and then how you feel afterward. This could be one small action you could take to practice being more in the moment at your meals. For those of you who find yourself rushing through meals and struggling to really take time to enjoy what you're eating, consider having your next meal at the table and notice how that impacts your experience. So I know that it's really easy to eat at your desk, or eat while standing up, or eat in the car. And so getting back to that very simple idea of eating at a table and noticing how that impacts your experience can be pretty powerful. All right, our third kind of activity or action step we're going to offer here is really observation. So sometimes prior to heading into the meal, we're thinking about a million other things. We're not taking that time to check in with our body to say, how am I feeling? What have I eaten so far today? What could I eat to really complement what I've already had and really support my body? And then prior to that meal, really taking some time to observe, how am I feeling in my mind, in my body? How are my energy levels? And then really centering yourself with 5 deep inhales and exhales before you go into that meal experience. And just simply notice, again, how those deep inhales and exhales impact how you approach your meal, and how that impacts your experience eating. And then lastly, and this is one we'll explain in a little bit more detail because it might not be as familiar to everybody, this technique is called eating in the round. And here on this picture, you see some broccoli, you see some chicken, and you see some sweet potatoes. So to practice eating in the round, you would first start with the chicken, and you would have a bite or 2 of that chicken. And as you're eating the chicken, you'd be noticing the color of the chicken, the taste of the chicken, the texture, the temperature, as well as how it feels as you're eating it. This really helps to keep the brain engaged in the process. We find that if we take 6 bites of a food, pretty soon our brain just kind of trails off and we're not as aware of how much we're eating. So after you take the first few bites of that chicken, then you'd move around your plate to the sweet potatoes, and you'd do the same thing, taking a couple bites there and really noticing the differences in texture, color, temperature, flavor of that food compared to the sweet potatoes. And you would do the same thing for the broccoli. And as you do this, you'd be just really noticing your hunger and your fullness levels, and really determining when you're feeling satisfied. So you'd keep moving in that circular fashion until you feel that it's time to pause and maybe end the meal if you're feeling satisfied. So now that we've discussed many ways that nutrition can support healthy weight management, I thought we could take some time to really step back and process what we've learned, and then also begin to make a plan for each of ourselves. After all, and this is my favorite quote, when it comes to behavior change, a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Changing our behaviors is and can be really hard. Habits take time to build, and they require us to be a little bit flexible and make some adjustments along the way. As we mentioned earlier, we might not get it right the first time, and that is totally okay. And I'll share one of my favorite quotes now. We have to work towards progress and not perfection, because none of us are perfect. So when setting goals, they don't have to be really big goals. In fact, it's actually better when we start small. At Moby, Brianna and I and all the other guys, we see it every day. Small steps in the right direction are what's going to help you get closer to your health goals and make meaningful and lasting changes. So take a moment to look down at your piece of paper, reflect on our conversation today. Every single one of you is going to have a different takeaway and a different connection to their own life, and that's what makes this so special. So choose one action from our time together that you want to take a step further and form into a goal. When writing a goal, there are certain questions we can ask ourselves and a formula that we can use to help set us up for success. So let's walk through that together. Research shows that people who physically take time to write down their goals, hence the pen and paper, are 40% more likely to achieve them. So let's get started with our first question, and that is, what is one thing that you would like to do this week to support your health? We talked about a lot of things. Maybe you came in with a thing. That's also wonderful. But an example of this could be something like, I would like to eat more technology-free lunches. So think about what's one thing that you want to start this week to support your health. I'm loving all the comments coming through and seeing. Thank you for sharing. All right, our second question. Why is this important to you? This is a very, very important question, because if number one isn't important to you, odds are it's going to be hard to make happen. So when we're able to connect our goals to things that are important to us, we're more motivated to succeed. We can really connect to that why. So for the example earlier, I would like to eat more technology-free lunches. Maybe it's important because your bigger goal is to lose weight, and you recognize that when you're scrolling social media, it's harder to be mindful of what you're eating. You're not paying attention to what you're eating. Maybe you eat more. So that's the why for you. Take a moment to think about that and write that down. All right, the third is, when will you do it? So setting goals that are realistic and measurable leads to a greater chance of success. Really nailing down the time, the place, exactly what this is going to look like. So for this example, maybe you choose to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at lunch, because Tuesday and Thursday you have other commitments that would make it hard to do. All right, our fourth question. What could get in your way? When you can identify things that are going to make reaching your goals hard before you start them, it gives you an opportunity or a chance to think about how to overcome those things before you get started, so they don't discourage progress or get in the way. So for this example, maybe I realized just having my phone around at lunch is going to be a big distraction, so I'm going to leave it at my desk. So what could get in your way? All right, and our last question, number 5, what will you need to succeed, and who could support you? We all need different things to reach a goal, even if our goal is somewhat similar, but it's also important to remember we don't have to reach our goals alone. So take some time, think about what you'll need to reach your goal and who you can lean on for support. For the example I gave, perhaps it is actually scheduling lunch, so I take the lunch on my calendar. And then telling a coworker, I tell Brianna, hey, you know what? I'm trying to have these tech-free lunches. Can you help hold me accountable? So sharing it with a coworker is the support that I need. Think about what would you need to succeed and who can support you?
By the way, I'm happy to support you, Katie.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so let's take a look at how this all comes together to form a solid action plan. So for this individual, she's decided that she's going to have a tech-free lunch 3 days a week. She's also going to have it outside, which I'm really impressed by her because that's going to add even more benefits to her well-being. And she's decided that in order to be successful, like Katie said, she's going to need to schedule in that time for lunch. It's easy for her to breeze through lunch. She wants to share her goal with the coworkers that she eats with for accountability. And then she plans to leave her phone at her desk so she's not even tempted to scroll social media. So it's always important to remember that those healthy habits do take time to develop and will require adjustments along the way. It's kind of an experiment. It's kind of a trial and error process, but it's really worth it. Individuals who plan and monitor their progress are twice as likely to achieve their goals. So that's a motivator in and of itself. We all encourage you to really start small and build on your progress, and to also know that truly at Moby, we're here to support you. This is what we do. This is what we're passionate about. So please know that we're here for you.